If you are building a brand or sharing your work online, here's something you might not realize yet. You are leading. And I'm not talking about managing a team in a blazer kind of leading, but really a leading in the way you influence what people believe, how they act, and whether they trust you. But if you've been feeling unsure about what you're really leading people into or why your message isn't landing the way you want it to, this episode is going to help you so much because we are talking and reframing the principle of influence. Because if you want your brand to connect, to convert, to actually mean something to your audience, you need to start owning your role as a leader. Even if that word still makes you cringe just a tiny bit. Hello, my love. Welcome to Brand Confidence for Creatives. Are you feeling stuck in a cycle of overthinking, trying to build your brand? I'm Eugenia, but you can call me E. I'm a marketing and brand coach. I spent years stuck in the cycle of researching, hesitating, and hiding until I got clear on my voice and my message. In this podcast, I'll guide you through the strategies you need to get clear on what you want to say, build a personal brand that actually feels like you, and create consistent magnetic marketing. If you've ever thought, I know I have something to say, I just don't know how to say it, then you are in the right place. So grab your coffee and let's dive in. By the way, have you registered for the upcoming free workshop I'm hosting on May 26th called the Get Clear on Your Brand Workshop? If you've been second guessing everything you post to the point where it's keeping you in analysis paralysis, this loop that's super uncomfortable, if you're showing up very timidly online, but you're still thinking like, oh, I don't really know what I'm saying. I don't really know how to say it. Let me tell you, I created this workshop just for you. And in just 45 minutes, I'll walk you through the first step to get brand clarity, and that is your message. I believe that your message is the catalyst for everything else you build with your brand. Because your brand is not about the cute caption or the perfect bio or the right wording for your title. It's about the deeper clarity that helps you show up online and feel so confident and so aligned with what you're building. So by the end of this workshop, you're going to have so much clarity about what you're building, how to start saying it in a way that feels clear, confident, and most importantly, true to who you are. So head to brandclarityclass.com or tap the link in the show notes to save your seat, and I would love to see you there. So I have a confession, and I don't think I'm alone in this. The word leadership used to make me cringe a little bit. And I don't think the kids are using the word cringe anymore, but bear with me. Because it's not that I didn't respect the word leadership, but it truly felt like this massive, just corporate word. And unless I was managing a team of 27 people in a WeWork wearing a blazer, it just wasn't for me. And every single podcast episode I listened on the topic was kind of reinforcing this belief. And I've had so many conversations with creatives to know that I'm not alone in that, because you may be trying to build something that's meaningful, to have impact, to really change your life, fulfill purpose, just accomplish a dream, whatever you're coming from. You might be really like in it, but the moment someone calls you a leader, you're like, whoa, let's not get carried away. I just want to post on Instagram. I just want to have a podcast. I just want to sell this thing in my Etsy shop. I just don't want to second guess every post. Like, that's it. And I get it because that used to be me. But that started to shift when I became a total nerd for leadership thinkers like Seth Godin and John Maxwell, specifically Seth, because yes, we are on a first name basis at this point. In his book, Lynchpin, and that's a gem. If you haven't read it, that really transformed the way I think about leadership. He says that leadership is creating change and something that doesn't exist right now. And that definition was a game changer because it really just opened up the meaning of leadership and all the possibilities with it. And actually, let me share a quote that I love so much from the book, even though I have the book completely highlighted because it's so good. The quote says, "Artists are people with a genius for finding a new answer, a new connection, or a new way of getting things done. Oh, so good. Insert fire emoji. I love that quote. Uncle Seth's definition helped me realize that leadership isn't about being in charge necessarily. It's about showing up with intention. Like you become a leader so much before you are in charge. And that's literally why I originally named this podcast Creator to Leader, because I wanted to explore that exact shift from just putting content out to actually guiding people with purpose. So leadership to me is so valuable. And then Seth kind of like opened up my mind. And then I went a little bit deeper by reading John Maxwell. And he's like the godfather of leadership. Like he's legit with leadership specifically. And he defines leadership as influence, nothing more, nothing less. And that's why I love him so much, because he's really to the point with his definitions. And the truth is, influence shows up everywhere in our work. Because when you sell something, you are leading someone through a decision. Like you are influencing someone to make a decision. When you deliver a service, let's say you already sold the person, then you're leading someone through that transformation. You are still in a position of influence where you are leading the process of this thing you are delivering. And even when you ask someone to listen to your podcast or read your caption, you are influencing them to have them share their most valuable resource with you, which is time. So even just showing up and saying, hey, I made this. Like, hey, I made this. I'm inviting you. You are inviting them to give you their attention, to give you their time. You are exercising influence. So no, you don't need to be ending world hunger or launching a 6-figure course to call yourself a leader. And that's the bottom line where I want to start today. But if you're building a brand, if you're trying to grow something or you're sharing ideas online, you are already leading. And the question then is, are you doing it with clarity and intention? Or are you just accidentally winging it because you don't even realize that you are in a position of leadership and you are wanting to build your influence? So let's break down how influence works inside your message specifically and how to use it to make your message stick, to connect, to move people. First point is that I want to make it super clear that influence is built, it's not bestowed. And this is not something you are handed by the queen. It's something you earn by showing up consistently, helping people move forward. Your actions are what build your leadership. There's leadership language, there's leadership behaviors, there are specific cues for leadership, and all of those lead to building that influence. And why is it so important that we get this like written in our brains? Because we often think, well, I'm not an expert yet. I'm in the process. Or my podcast is small. Who's even listening? Oh, I just launched the YouTube channel. Or my business is not a huge business yet. But the thing is that influence doesn't start with 1 million followers. It starts with clarity. When people understand what you are about, they start to trust you. So not only when you're clear about what you're saying, but when people are clear about what they're being told. So how to start building this influence? Ask yourself, what am I inviting people into? Your message really should have that direction. That direction is how people start to follow your lead. Literally, like they're like, oh, this is the path. This is the journey. And the best way to do this is by building empathy. And then also using your experience and using your knowledge and using where you've been to demonstrate your authority. And that's the kind of leadership that says, this is where we're going. And it might not be the obvious path, but there's a reason I'm taking you there. And it doesn't come from a place of, oh, trust me. It comes from a place of, I've showed up for you. I've done this before. I have authority in this space. Come join me on this journey. So this is where your brand stops being a collection of just content and starts being more of a movement. And I don't want to scare you with big words, but as a creative, I want you to start seeing your brand as this thing that could really influence people towards a vision that you have. This is something bigger than just one post. And that leads me to my point number 2. That is, your message is the vehicle of your influence. So literally imagine a car, and this car is driving influence from one place to another. That car, the shape, is your message. That's where you tell people, oh, this is the car that you want to get into. So if leadership is influence and influence is helping people move, then your message is how you help people move. Because your message is truly the foundation. It's not just about saying the right thing, but it's about knowing what you're inviting people into. Sometimes we complain because people are not following, or people are not buying, or people are not listening, they're not watching. And when you try to explain it to someone, you are not really clear, or you take 3 minutes to explain your vision. And the person that you're talking to, they're like, oh, it sounds interesting, I guess, but they are not really clear. If your message is vague, if it's scattered, if it's unclear, then no matter how good your content is, people are not going to know what to do with it. Without that clarity in your message, the words that you say won't land because there's nothing anchor them. Sometimes we go straight into finding the right words, and you might even write a beautiful caption that gets incredible engagement and people love it. And then you post again and you hear crickets and you get so frustrated because you're like, oh my gosh, I thought I had it. The thing is that you had an incredible caption that connected, but wasn't really connected to anything bigger. It wasn't connected to anything of influence. It was just a cute caption that, sure, resonated in the moment, and then people moved on. That's why you need to have this alignment in your messaging, because if this alignment doesn't exist, that message or that piece of content you are creating won't be seen as part of this journey that you as a leader are inviting your people on. So how do you get clear in this vehicle of your message? I want to give you an example, right? Let's say you are throwing a party. Before you create a cute invite or pick the font, you really need to know the basics. Like, where is it happening? What time? What's the vibe? Why are you even hosting it? What's the purpose? That is the foundational clarity that messaging offers, and that's why we need to work on it first. It's the what, where, why, and the who really behind your brand. Only then, after you've created that, then you can start getting creative with the words, the content, the delivery. Like, you can have a beautiful invitation, just like very witty wording. You first need to have those details ironed out. Without that foundation, even the most beautifully written caption or post can fall flat because it's not part of a clear journey you are leading people through. And influence requires clarity because you can't lead people to something if you don't know where you're leading them to. Like, they're not going to get in your car if they don't know where the car is going. So before you write the invite, before you write the card, know what kind of party you're actually throwing. So number 3, what happens after you get this clarity? And I really wanted to make this point because none of this matters if we don't understand that influence requires responsibility. And this is a part of the podcast where I channel my inner Uncle Ben from Spider-Man because he was so right. With great power comes great responsibility. Once you realize that your message carries influence, you also realize that this isn't just about what you say. This is about how you lead. Because you are not just filling a feed. You are not just closing a sale. You are not just posting an episode. You are shaping perception. You are guiding people toward belief through decisions, change. And that's a big deal. It's amazing. It is such a huge privilege, but it is a big deal. And I know that it can be easy to default to urgency tactics or scripts from templates or using just exaggerated claims and words that sound super dramatic. Things I've seen everywhere for a little while are, quantum leap or soul aligned conversion machine. Like, the ones, right? And probably that's not because you want to manipulate anyone. I really don't think that if you use these words, you're coming from a bad place. I really think you're trying to highlight the importance of what you're saying. And also that's what's being modeled everywhere. So I think it's normal to think that that's the right way to go about it. But as a creative leader, you get to choose a different approach. So what does responsibility actually look like? Contrary to what you might be thinking, you can breathe and relax. Because responsibility doesn't mean being perfect. It doesn't mean playing it safe. It doesn't mean being this super put together person. Responsibility means choosing to be clear, choosing to be truthful, choosing to be intentional with the influence you already have. Remember, at this point, you've recognized and assumed and started to make peace with the fact that you are a person of influence, that you have leadership in you because you are building this thing. And this is so important because influence without responsibility gets loud, and influence with responsibility builds trust. So the question to ask as you shape your message is, am I saying this because it's true to me or because I feel like I have to? Does this reflect the kind of brand and the kind of leader I actually want to be? The principle of influence is such a privilege. And remember, you build it intentionally. So when you approach your message with clarity, with care, and you stop chasing attention, really you start building connection instead. So this is what I want you to take away from today. First, leadership is influence. And if you are building a brand, you are already leading, whether it feels that way or not. And if imposter syndrome just kicked in with that statement, don't worry, because I'm going to show you how to step into leadership in a way that feels clear and grounded and ethical to you on my May 26 workshop. So you can go to brandclarityclass.com for that. But leadership is influence. Point number 2, influence isn't about being loud. It is about being clear. So your message is how people know that what you stand for and where you're taking them. And also that with that influence comes responsibility. And I'm not trying to pressure you to be perfect, but I'm calling you up to be intentional, to live out your values and the things you say you believe in. And that's the heart of leadership in your brand. That's exactly what we are unpacking inside my free workshop, Get Clear on Your Brand. And that's happening on May 26th. And I would love to see you there because we need to strengthen this out so you know how to come from a place of leadership and authority without feeling weird, without saying things that are not authentic to you. Inside this workshop, I'm going to walk you through the first step to brand clarity, and that is your message, because you need to finally start showing up with confidence, knowing what you are saying, knowing why it matters. So go and save your seat at brandclarityclass.com or tap the link in the show notes. Let's build brands that are influencing with clarity, responsibility, creative fun. Why not? Not with noise. Please, let's do away with that. Okay? I'll see you there. Un beso. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you loved it, don't keep it to yourself. Send it to a friend who's also trying to grow their brand without losing themselves in the process. Remember that sharing is caring. Real talk, I used to overthink every post too. So if this episode gave you a little aha moment, just know you are not behind. You are building something real. See you back here soon for the next episode. Un beso.